Buenos dias and welcome to More Colombian Than an Arepa podcast. I'm your host, Sam.
And I am the other half here on More Colombian Than Arepa, Nick.
And we are here to talk about everything Colombia, about our life in Colombia, about living in Colombia, and just general things about this beautiful country. But you might be wondering who we are and why we are talking all about Colombia. And that is because in 2023, we actually moved permanently from the United States to Medellín, Colombia. And we decided in November of last year to start documenting our life a little bit here. Documenting about what it's like to get settled into life in Colombia. And so we decided to do this across all the social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and we started building this beautiful community that came with us as we started to document our life. And we were getting lots and lots of questions about what it's like to live in Colombia. But when you have a social media platform like Instagram or even TikTok, you're only given a short 90 seconds to be able to answer some of these questions. And honestly, that was way too hard for us. So we decided to start More Colombian Than an Arepa podcast so that we could dive deeper into answering your questions, talk more about in detail, interview people to help answer some of these questions, and just in general to talk a little bit more about life here in Colombia. We also bought a home here in 2022, right, Nick?
Yep, 2022.
Which is crazy to think about. That was 2 years ago.
Time flies.
But we bought a home here in Medellín in 2022. And that's another common things that people ask us is, how did you buy property abroad? We were living in the United States at the time, but that's a story for a different time. But we did all of this without resources. So that's another reason we decided to really dive deeper into this kind of question and answering into this podcast so that we could make sure that you have access to all of the things that we have learned.
And that we wish we had.
And we wish we had.
When we moved here.
Exactly. So that's a little bit about who we are. And if you want to see daily updates about our life here in Colombia, definitely make sure to follow us on our personal social media. It's at Colombia_expats. We are on all of the platforms. So you'll find us on literally every single social media.
TikTok, YouTube.
Yes.
Instagram.
Do you want to tell them a little bit about some of the different topics of podcasts that we're doing?
So when we started our Instagram, we just get questions pretty much about everything. And I think it's hard to explain in 90 seconds. And some things we can't really talk about on Instagram because Instagram likes to restrict you. So we wanted to start a podcast that allows us to just dig deep into these different conversations and things that people really want to know about Colombia. And we plan on having people on, professionals here, lawyers, doctors, to explain to you how things work here, because it is different than the US and any other country that you're going to be coming from. So we want to just share our experiences and our knowledge and our community here in Medellín to give you all of the tips and tricks on how to live here, why to live here, and everything in between.
We have some really cool topics coming up. We're going to be talking about what cost of living is and daily life here in Colombia. We're going to be talking about how to build a social circle because it is hard to start making friends when you live in other countries. So how we did it and how you can do it across the whole country in major kind of expat cities around the country. And we'll be talking a little bit about just like how to buy property, taxes, health insurance, all the questions that you probably will have. We're also going to be interviewing people on a special segment once a month called Life in Colombia. We don't want to be specific to Medellín. We want to be all over the country, all over this beautiful country. So we're going to be interviewing foreigners who have moved to anywhere in Colombia and just asking them the questions that you might have for them. Why are they here? How long have they been here? How are they here? What do they do here? Do they work here? How do they make money? All the kind of things that you might have questions if you're considering spending any kind of time in Colombia. We want to make sure to interview lots of amazing people with incredible stories that also live here as well. We are going to be posting at 7 a.m. every Tuesday, and it is going to be a great time. We're going to be having lots of fun, right?
Lots of fun, lots of people. We're hoping to find foreigners that are living outside of Medellín in different cities to talk about their experience and why they chose those kind of places. So definitely subscribe, however these podcasts work. You subscribe, you follow. This is our first podcast, so just bear with us here. So definitely tell your friends, tell your family. We definitely plan on digging into everything Colombia.
But you might be wondering what more Colombian than an arepa means. So let me just tell you a little bit, because this is my most favorite saying here in Colombia. I didn't even know it existed until kind of recently. But okay, so if you don't know, one of the most popular traditional foods here in Colombia is an arepa. And so by saying that you are more Colombian than an arepa, it's saying essentially that you have Colombia in your blood. That Colombia, you have more Colombia culture and everything inside you than one of the most classic traditional Colombian foods, which I just love. We started hearing this. You can't see us. Well, if you're following us on our social medias at More Colombian Than an Arepa, then you can see we're wearing our yellow jerseys here while we're filming our very first podcast. And also because today is a football match tonight. It's an elimination game, I think, for FIFA 2026. But also because earlier this year, there was Copa America, which is one of like the biggest cups, like football competitions all over the world. And it only is for countries within the Americas. And so when we started filming and recording our experiences there, it was so much fun because that's when we started to hear that we were more Colombian than an arepa. And so we decided when we were going to start this podcast that we were going to make you more Colombian than an arepa as well. It is time for you to learn all of the ins and outs of being Colombiano. And that means that you eventually will become more Colombian than an arepa, just like we have.
No matter if you're a foreigner or Colombian, after this podcast, you will be more Colombian than an arepa.
Exactly. But we are trying to build a community here. So like Nick said, make sure to share this with everyone. Let's try to get as many people more Colombian than an arepa. And we would love to hear your stories. We want you to share your experiences and your stories. So please drop us a note wherever you're listening to this. Send us a message on our social media. We have social media for all of the platforms at More Colombian Than an Arepa. Also our personal one too, at Colombia_expats. It's a great way for us to be connected, for us to learn a lot about you, for us to get to know you. Like we said, community is so important to us. So we want to get to know you just as much as you will be hearing our voices over the next forever, however long.
And if you want to put a face to the voice, head to our YouTube channel. You can see what we look like.
Exactly.
Or go to our Instagram.
Exactly. On the next episode, we are going to be going through our life here and our story and how we ended up in Colombia, how we eventually bought a place here, how many times we came here. We rented our place for a little bit, moving here permanently. We brought our dog down here with us, a little bit about that, all of that information on the next podcast. So we do hope you stick around for that. And thank you so much for joining us for our very first podcast at More Colombian Than an Arepa. We are so excited for this journey. We are so happy that you're joining us on this journey. And until next time, hasta pronto.